Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
So we will just wait till people come. So yeah. So how are people finding the project? The MTech students have you made some headway? Ramnath?
Yes, sir. I could complete it. I have submitted. I have done the submission on 30th.
Okay, I see.
Yes.
Simran, you need to join with the IIT Goa ID. Okay, so how about others? Uh, Shashwat, did you do the assignment?
Yes, sir. I have almost completed.
Okay, good. I meant the project, not the assignment anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. So, all right.
Hello,
Yeah, go
sir.
ahead.
I did. I actually computed the conditional probability of probability of pixel one getting value in bin one given class A. So I computed all such probabilities, and then I have used like if probability of A given B is equals to probability of B given A into probability of B divided by probability of A.
Okay,
So So I've computed the matrix, and using that matrix, I've computed. I have tested, try to predict the data in test
okay.
samples. So I'm getting very low, like 20% of
Oh, no, no,
accuracy.
no. It will come higher. Just check your code.
Okay.
Go through my naive base video and check your code. It will not be that low. You have to check, for example, the accuracy for every character. You have to see, you have to generate a confusion matrix. Okay,
Yes, sir.
so yeah, and you see how the accuracy is for everything. It will be quite high.
Okay.
In fact, if you are very clever and if you add some new features, you can make it even better.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, just check your code. All right, so yeah, so there is only 39 people. I don't know what's up, why people are not attending this class. Half the class is missing. All right.
Uh, Hello, sir.
Yeah,
Sir, I just wanted to know how many projects, such projects, do we have?
so I'm planning to give at least one more,
Okay.
and I
That
think
will be
two.
on the Kalman filters, right?
That is what I'm thinking. I
Yeah.
have to, I have to do a lot of work this week, this month, and then yeah, but that should be on Kalman filter. That is what I'm thinking.
Okay, just to have some prior work on that. So that's why I was asking.
Yeah, yeah, but given the short amount of time, I need to see what is the best thing so that your time is also optimized. But any case, for you, the master students, there is no final exam, so you can use the time to do the project. So that's why it's okay, I suppose. All right, so let's get started. So I will begin today's class. So I'm experiencing some internet issues. So if at some point I break off, I will join again. Hopefully this shouldn't happen. But in any case, I'm just warning you. So anyway, so let's hope it doesn't happen. Okay, so everybody's able to see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank you. All right, so let's begin. So let me just make some announcements. So what is happening is, as you know, November is the only month left by which we should wrap this course. So which means there will be more work for you to do and more work for me to do. So I did not give you any videos to watch this week because it was just 1 week after your midterm. Typically, that's a break week. So I didn't want to stress you at least 1 week after the midterm. So that's why I didn't give you any videos to watch. Probably that is going to cause us a lot more work to do in the coming weeks. But any case, we will do that. So, so there is going to be so there will be now, since there is only a month left. So if you see the calendar, these are the only. I mean, even 8 is the last class, I think, if I'm not wrong. So we have only about 5 weeks, 10 classes left. Okay, 10 and including today's 12 classes left. So there is going to be at least 3 quizzes in these 5, and there is going to be at least 3 assignments in this time. So it's going to be a hectic week, but yeah, I guess I mean there is, since because of this COVID situation, this semester has been shrinked and there is no break and all. But that doesn't mean that we should compromise on what we have to learn, right? So I hope everybody appreciates this sentiment and will work with me to get all of these things done. All right. So if you see, I will announce 2 quizzes, one on 10th and 17th. So let me just tell. So quiz 3, 10 November, and quiz 4, 17 November. Okay. So that is if you see the next 2 weeks. All right. So the portions for this will have continuous random variables completely, okay, including multivariate Gaussians, okay, I might have got the spelling of Gaussians wrong. Multivariate Gaussians, what else? Convolution, which I'm going to cover tomorrow, okay, and derived distribution, which I'm going to cover today. Okay. Then November 17th one, this will have, so these things we have discussed actually. I mean, I did not follow exactly how Sitsikil did, but we have actually covered some amount of Bernoulli process, iterated expectations. So these names that I'm giving is also the name of the lecture that Sitsikil covers this, and then Poisson process. Okay, so these things I have already covered in the class, some portion of it, and yeah, so you will watch some videos here. You will watch, for example, this week you will watch derived distribution and some of these things. Okay, and next week we will talk about iterative expectations in whatever leftover topic it is there. So these are the quiz 3 and quiz 4. We have to start statistics, so which we will do after this week, hopefully. All right, so there is a lot of work for us to do. And assignment, what is going to happen is I'm going to give you 10 days for every assignment, but there may be 2 assignments running together. So which means you may have like assignment 3 and 4, a few overlap, but that is just because we don't have that much time. All right, so it's just because of the situation. I wouldn't plan like this, but since, see, we were strongly advised that we should not take 3 classes every week, but without taking 3 classes, it's like I'm working with, already the semester is shrink, and already we are losing about 2/3 of the classes. Sorry, 1/3 of the classes. So it's really less time, and I don't want to just give you videos to watch and give you things to read without trying to teach some things around it. Okay, so that is the reason why you may feel that it's a little rushed, but this is for your own good. And yeah, it just means that there is going to be a lot of work for me as well, you know, because I have to correct so many things that you will turn in. Okay, so I have to also, for example, give project 2, which I should do soon, hopefully. So yeah, anyway, So this week I will give the keys for the exam, and I will try to correct assignment 2 and exam. Okay. All right. So any questions on the announcements? I need some response because I don't, yeah, okay, thanks. Okay, so that's good. So yeah, so this lecture, please participate in the class because I wouldn't know if I am connected in internet or not. So in case I lose connection and I keep speaking, you need to just keep speaking with me so that I know the class is connected. All right. So as usual, I will upload the recording of this lecture at the end of the class. So if those of you whose bandwidth is low and if due to some reason my bandwidth is causing you to not see some of the things that I'm discussing, you will be able to see later. All right. So today we are going to talk about a little bit. We will continue on multivariate Gaussians and we will finish what is called as derived distributions or functions of random variables. Okay. So basically, yeah, let's just get started. So you will see what I'm trying to say. So, so let me just do a quick recap from the last class. So the last class we talked about what is called as covariance of x comma y. Okay, so this was defined as the expectation of x minus ex into y minus ey. Okay, we understood that this number, if it is greater than 0, what it means is that x, if x increases, y increases. So that trend indicates that covariance is greater than 0. If it is equal to 0, we say it is uncorrelated. Okay. In particular, example is independent random variables are uncorrelated. Okay. And then we saw what is less than 0, which is like the opposite. Okay. So one important point here is if some random variables are uncorrelated, it doesn't mean they are independent. Okay. This we discussed in detail. I will probably give you an assignment question to just check this. All right. So then we saw what is called as multivariate Gaussian. Okay. So what that was is basically what we discussed is like sometimes when you do measurements, you may have to do multiple measurements simultaneously, and that gives you a better picture of the scenario, right? So for example, you do x1, x2, all the way till xn. Okay, and then you look at all these. No, this is your usual density. Okay, it's a multivariate density, but if you look at this, so the what we showed last time is that the density of the multivariate Gaussian is 1 over 2 pi to the power of n by 2. Okay, that is first thing, and then we look at determinant of sigma to the power of half. Okay, last time I wrote something like this, and I said consider this as the determinant, but this is going to be a problem because today we will use absolute value. You remember what is absolute value? Absolute value. So for example, if I give absolute value of minus 0.5, you will get 0.5, right? So this is absolute value. I will need this as well. So because of that, we will not use this notation. Okay, we will write it as determinant itself, and then we saw it is e power minus half. Okay, this x is a vector. Okay, x is a vector which is having all the values like x1, x2, all the way till xn. Okay, mu is also a vector which is equal to mu1, mu2, mu(n). X minus mu transpose sigma inverse x minus mu. This we said is a multivariate Gaussian distribution. So this is what we discussed last time. So one immediate question which I didn't dwell upon in the last time, we said sigma is a covariance matrix. Okay, this is a covariance matrix. So what it does is it looks at covariance of x1, x1, covariance of x1, x1, sorry, and x1, x2, all the way till covariance of x1, xn. So likewise, covariance of x2, x1, okay, covariance of x2, x2, okay, and all the way till covariance of x2, xn. I hope the pattern is clear. So this covariance matrix is like this. Okay, so some remarks I want to make about this covariance matrix. So one thing is covariance of xi with xi, covariance of x with x, it's going to be variance of x. Okay, so this is one thing. And then we also know that covariance of xi, xj is equal to covariance of xj, xi. Okay, so I must repeat this multivariate Gaussian finds application all over in machine learning. So you may feel like this is like some kind of a algebraic exercise, but when you see the applications, due to the lack of time, I cannot go through in the class. But when you learn your machine learning course, you'll find that this has a lot of applications. Okay, it may look very strange, but Gaussian is the most central, most important thing that is there in this subject. All right, so when we look at this, and if you start putting in the values, covariance of x1 is sigma 1 square. So this is sigma 2 square. Okay, this is sigma n square. And covariance x1, x2 is sigma 1, 2. Okay, which is same as, maybe I should not write sigma 1, 2, but okay, let me write, yeah, so okay, let's call it, okay, just let me clean this up. I don't know what is the notation used in the textbook, but let me write it as sigma 1, 2 itself. What happened with my pen? Maybe sigma 1, 2, and this is sigma 1, 2. So basically, since these are equal, what you have is a sigma. First property that you have is sigma is a symmetric matrix. Okay. This is property number 1. Property number 2 is actually sigma is equal to expectation of x minus mu into x minus mu transpose. Okay, this you need to prove. I will give this as an assignment for you. Let me just make a note of this. So for a multivariate, where here no x is a multivariate thing. So what is x? Let me repeat. This will be x1 to xn. Okay, mu will be mu1 to mu n. Okay, so this is you can show sigma is given by this expression. Thirdly, most important, which we cannot dwell on much, is that sigma is a positive semi-definite matrix. How many of you have heard of this? Anybody?
No, sir.
Okay, so this is very important concept which comes many times in mathematics. So what is a positive semi-definite matrix? So this is a so what does that mean? So sigma is positive semi-definite. So let me write it as PSD. What it means is when sigma is PSD, then for all x which is belonging to Rn. So take any vector that you like. If you do x transpose sigma x, okay, this is definitely has to be greater than or equal to 0. So let me try to explain what this means. So x is a vector in Rn, right? So what is the dimension of x? Yes, anybody?
N.
It is
n cross 1.
n cross 1. Yes. So let me dimension of x is n cross 1. Okay. Because you write x as x1, x2 like this. Okay. So if you look at this, there are n rows and 1 column. So it is n cross 1. Sigma is n cross n. I hope that is clear. So what is the dimension of x transpose? Yes. Somebody?
1 cross n.
1 cross n. So when you do X transpose sigma X, so this is your usual matrix multiplication, okay? So what you are doing is, you are doing 1 cross n, this is n cross n, and finally it is n cross 1. So what will be the final product? What it will be if you multiply everything?
1 cross 1.
Yes, so the whole product will be 1 cross 1, okay, which is nothing but a single number. So this is a single number, okay? All right, so this is true for all x, okay? So now let us take an example, okay? So let us say, everybody know what's a Euclidean space, right? Euclidean space. So Euclidean space is R2, R3 and all of these, okay? So the distance in an Euclidean space, distance to origin, is also called as a norm. Okay, this is another important name which I am telling. You will, if you learn mathematics and if you learn more of machine learning, these things appear. So norm of a point is like distance to origin. So if you look at a point x1, x2, x3, let us take only three-dimensional space. What is the distance to the origin? Yes, somebody?
x1 square plus x2 square plus x3 square.
Yeah, yeah, very good. So x1 square plus x2 square plus x3 square. Okay, now what I will ask you to do is like, okay, let me take a different color. So you take identity matrix. Identity matrix is 1 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 1. Okay, now you do x transpose I x. Okay, so let's do that. So x transpose is x1, x2, x3. Identity, you know what it is, 1 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 1, and then x1, x2, x3. So if I multiply this with this, I should do matrix multiplication. So let us do that. What do you get? Yes? Somebody? So this one will remain as it is. What will I get if I multiply identity with x1, x2, x3?
x1, x2, x3.
Yes.
You get a row matrix.
Column matrix itself. Because identity, no, it doesn't change anything. If you multiply with identity, it gives you back the same thing. Okay. So now when you multiply x transpose ix, when you do the final multiplication like this, what you get is x1 squared plus x2 squared plus x3 squared. Okay, so which is nothing but this norm. Okay, so basically positive semi-definite matrices, for positive semi-definite matrices can be used to measure distances. Do you understand how that is? So with an example like this, I showed you that now no matter what point I take, okay, the distance to the origin is always positive. Okay, it's going to be the square root of this. It's always positive. So likewise, if I take I and replace it with any other positive semi-definite, that also is going to define a distance. Okay, so positive semi-definite matrices are used to define distances. So this is a very important property which will come up again and again when you learn more things. All right, so positive semi-definite is an important concept. Okay, it is also called as, if you learn a linear algebra well, or if you learn a little bit in detail, it's also called as a bilinear form. Okay, so this anyway is just a word, but you will see later. So it's an example of a bilinear form. Not all bilinear form are positive semi-definite, but yeah, anyway. So this is about it. So this covers whatever multivariate Gaussian I wanted to tell. So now let us start a new topic, which is derived distributions. Okay. So let's take an example. So let's take y is equal to an x square. So a function of random variable, x is a random variable whose distribution is given by the density fx of x. Okay, so now I'm saying y is equal to x square, and I'm interested, my interest is basically either I want to find Fi of y or the density. Okay, I want to do this. That's my interest. Okay, so the usual procedure for the derived distribution is always this. First, what you do is find out the expression of Fi of y. First you do is find Fi of y. Second, you take the derivative of Fi of y with respect to y. Then you will get the density. So these are the two steps that we will take. All right. So now, in fact, before even we come to this, let us look at a much more simpler example. Okay. So this we will come back to, but let's take an example of y is equal to ax plus b. In fact, let us just put some numbers. Y is equal to 2x plus 3. Okay. And x is, let us say, normal 0, 2 square. Okay. So that means variance is equal to 4. All right. So this is an example that I'm going to take, and I'm doing y is equal to 2x plus 3. Fine. So now I want to find out the distribution of this is called the distribution or the cumulative distribution of y, or I want to find the density. Okay. So now to do this, what I need to do is first I need to find Fi of y, right? Remember, that is the first step. So what is Fi of y? So this is by definition probability that y is less than any y which is a variable. This small y is a variable. Okay. So I want to find out what's the probability this happens. Okay. I hope everyone follows this, which is also equal to what's the probability that 2x plus 3 is less than or equal to y. All right. So now what that gives us is, I can say this is probability that x is less than y minus 3 by 2. Okay, I just did some manipulation. If 2x plus 3 is less than y, it must be the case that x is less than y minus 3 by 2. Okay, so these two are equivalent. Okay, so if you put, for example, y minus 3 by 2 over here and you simplify, you'll get y. Okay, and since x is less than this number, you will get a number which is less than y. I hope this argument is clear for everybody. So now we know what is the distribution of x, right? So that means this is fx of y minus 3 by 2. Okay, we know x is having normal distribution, so we can actually do find the distribution of y by doing the second step. So let's do the second step. So Fy of y is equal to dFy of dy. Okay, I'm taking the derivative here. Now that means I'm taking the derivative of fx of y minus 3 by 2. Okay, this is what I'm doing, isn't it? So now if you remember what was called as chain rule. Okay, so if I do d by dx of f of g of x, right? This is what we used to do. This will be f dash of g of x, and then you do the inner one, g dash of x. Okay, so that is the chain rule. So the same idea holds here. So first I need to take the derivative of this fx itself with respect to y. Now I know that when I take the derivative of the density, like fx, I will get the density. So this will be small fx of y minus 3 by 2 into the derivative of this guy, which is half. Okay. So now let me make some space. Okay, so that is it. We have got the expression, but now we know what is fx of x. Okay, so I said it is normal with the mean equal to 0 and variance or sigma squared equal to 4. Okay, so this is 1 over square root 2 pi sigma. Sigma is nothing but 2. Okay, e power minus half. Okay, so mean is 0. Okay, so it is going to be x square x minus 0 is x squared itself. So let me just clear this a little bit. So this is x squared, okay, and variance is 2, or this will be into 4. Okay, so this is what it is. So this is fx of x. Now if I want to write what is fy of y, I have to just follow the logic. So you will have half, okay, then f I take the fx, and wherever x comes I will put y minus 3 by 2. Okay, so that's the way I write it. So half, this half is here, and then now I'm writing the inner thing. This is 1 over square root 2 pi, okay, this 2 e power minus x squared, which will be y minus 3 whole squared by 2 squared whole squared. Okay, that 2 squared I will write it as 2 into 4 into 2 squared, which is 4. Okay, so now we will rearrange this a little bit. You will get this as square root of 2 pi. I will write this as 2 into 2. Okay, e power minus y minus 3 whole squared divided by 2 into 2 whole squared. Okay, so why did I write like this? That I wrote like this because now we can see that fy of y is also normally distributed. The density looks like a normal distribution, with the exception that y has a distribution with normal. Mean previously was 0, now the mean is 3. Okay, variance previously was 2 squared, now the variance is 2 into 2 squared. Okay, so this is it. So this shows that when you do basically a linear transformation, which is like a linear operation on the normal, you will continue to get normal. All right, is this idea clear to everybody how we did? Anybody has any questions here?
Sir,
Yeah, Ramnath, tell me.
sir, just in case, like this, I have understood what has been done.
Yeah.
Just like, for example, we are given this y is equal to 2x plus 3, and we know that x is a normal distribution with the parameters.
Mm-hmm.
And if we are asked to evaluate how does y behave,
Yes.
can we use like the properties, find expectation of y is equal to expectation of 2x plus 3, and variance?
Yes. You can use it. See, the purpose of this discussion, what I did right now, is not to give you like a new way. I mean, I'm just giving you it's not about normal that I'm talking about. It's about derived distribution. Okay, how do you use this? How do you find the derived distribution? We all knew before even we did this, we knew what was the distribution of y. We have already seen the properties of normal, right? But now I gave you a proof for it, why it is actually, even then also I gave you a proof, but this proof is following some other logic. Ramnath, does it answer your question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so this idea of this discussion is to give you like how the derived distributions come in. Okay, not really to show you that this is how you should treat normal from here on. That's not the idea. It's to give you the idea of, okay, so let's generalize this. Okay, so let's look at one more example. Okay, so now what we will do is we will do basically two things. So we are going to generalize this idea. Okay, so let's look at y is equal to ax plus b. Okay, here a is greater than 0. And next other one we will do is y is equal to ax plus b. Here a is less than 0. Okay, so again I'm discussing this so that you understand, you know, how do you find out the density of derived distribution. That's the idea. All right, so let's do this. So same procedure. The first one is to find fy of y. Okay, let me just ask others as well. Ramnath asked some question, but how are others finding? Can I have a quick poll if things are okay so far? Everything fine? Yes, people? Okay, thank you. So I just want to know things are good. All right, thanks. So coming back to this, so basically now what I'm trying to do is I'm going to give you one more example which generalizes the idea of linear things. Okay, so this is the second idea. So here let's begin the process. We will do this simultaneously and then we will see what happens. Okay, so first we will do P by so Fy of y. That's the first step, right? So this is the probability that y is, I'm sorry, I should not write the small y here. Y is less than y. So let's say in both the cases, just a minute. In for both these cases, x is distributed with density fx of x. Okay, so this is the density for both the cases. All right, so Fy of I and the cumulative is of course Fx of x. So now let's do this. So this is going to be probability that Ax plus B is less than 1, right? No problem. So similarly, the same steps we will do here, though it's going to be kind of a repetition, but we will see something happening in the next few stages. Now, see, A is a positive number. Okay, so if Ax plus B is equal to 3, okay, if Ax plus B, for let's take some example. Let me just clear it out. Let's say for x1, so let's say A is equal to 2 and B is equal to 3. Example. Okay. So now if I say 2 into, let's take a particular value of x1, maybe 5. 2 into 5 plus 3, okay, is 13, and let's say y is 20. So this is definitely less than 20. Okay. Now, if I take a value which is, see, what I'm trying to say is, A is a positive number, so we can actually do this step. X is less than y minus b by A. Okay, this we can do. But here, when you do the same operation, what you will get is, here you will get x is greater than y minus b by A. Okay, because A is a negative number. I don't know if this idea is clear. So basically what I'm trying to say is, as x increases, y increases. Is that clear? Because A is a positive number. As x increases, y increases. So this is monotone increasing case. Okay. Here in this case, as x increases, y decreases. Okay. So that is why when you look at the inequality, this is going to flip. I don't know if this, at this point, people are having any confusion. So is it okay? People, do you follow what's going on till here? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Everybody? Rest of the class? Okay, thanks. So now this is this is just because A is a negative number. So when x increases, y decreases, because A is a negative number, right? This is what I've written here. So this is the only difference, but rest of the things will follow. Okay, so here what we will do, we will write it as fx of y minus b by A. This is fine. But here we will write it as 1 minus p x less than, okay, not less than or equal to, less than y minus b by A. Because this is just, I hope this by now, this shouldn't be a difficult thing for you to see. Okay. But now, since x is a continuous distribution, I can write this as, I can include the point x equal to y minus b by A. Why? Because probability that x is equal to y minus b by A, what is this equal to, guys?
0.
Yeah. Thank you.
0.
Yeah. So that is what. So this is why we can do this. Okay. So now this will be 1 minus f of y minus b by A. Okay, so now we are ready. Both the things we can start solving simultaneously. We just take the derivative. So taking the derivative, what you will get, fy of y is equal to, taking the chain rule again. So first time when you take, you will get fx of y minus b by a into 1 over a. Here when I take the derivative, fy of y will be negative fx of y minus b by a into 1 over a. Okay, but now you know that a is a negative number. Okay, so what you can do is you can write this as this negative gets cancelled. You can write it as this. This is the absolute value of a. Absolute value of a, I told you, right? Absolute value of 0 point positive number is positive, whereas absolute value of a negative number is positive again. Okay, so this is going to be this fx of y minus b by a. Okay, so now we can, even since a is also positive, we can write this as same thing. Okay, so now finally we have, for both the things, we are able to write a single expression. The single expression being fy of y is 1 over a fx of y minus b by a. Okay, is this clear to everybody? This is, I think, not such a difficult thing. Since you followed along everything, this must be obvious. Okay, let me know if you have any questions so far. Okay, so this is very good. Why? Because you are now able to write your distribution of y in terms of distribution of x. Okay, so this is, you can look at several examples here, and this will make it very clear that you are able to write the density directly. Okay, but this procedure does not work. So what was the thing? So we took y is equal to ax plus b. Okay, so depending upon a greater than 0, it was either monotonically increasing, or if a is less than 0, it was monotonically decreasing. Okay, so because of which you could write it as a single expression like this, but this is not always the case. Okay, let's look at an example. So if you take the previous example, y is equal to x square, okay, with, let us say, let fx of x and fx of x be the, this is the PDF, this is the CDF. Okay, so now if I try to do the same steps, okay, now you know that y is equal to x square, right? It is neither monotonically increasing nor monotonically decreasing. Why? Because it has this shape. Okay, so when you, in this axis, when you increase in the negative axis, when you increase value, it will decrease. Whereas in the positive axis, when you increase, this will increase. So it is neither monotonically increasing nor monotonically decreasing. Okay. So here you will have a problem. So let us see why. Okay. So what you will get, you will have a probability that y is less than y, which is same as probability that x squared is less than y. Okay, now when I try to write the next step, okay, when I take the derivative of y, I will get both. So if I take, for example, y right here, okay, there will be two values coming in. This will be square root y, and this will be negative square root y. Okay, so it won't be like the previous case. Okay, in the previous case, if you see, you got a single expression, right? In terms of CDF, you won't have like that. Here you will in fact have something like this. This will be probability that x lies between this. Okay, so this will not be like a very elegant formulation like we had before. So this will be fx of square root of y minus fx of square root of negative y. So this, now if you take the derivative, you will get the density function, but it is not as nice as the previous case. What was the previous case? It was a monotonically increasing or monotonically decreasing case. Okay, so that is a thing that you need to be careful when you are doing derived distribution. All right. So let's try to. So this, we looked at an example where we looked at monotonically increasing and decreasing linear function. Let us look at non-linear functions and just try to finish that theory. So that's the next topic. Okay, so Yeah, so I'm sorry if you feel like this is going very fast, but you always have the lecture recordings in YouTube, so you can always go through it slowly. And if you have any questions, you can ask me. Okay, but we need to do this a little fast. I hope it's not too fast. All right. So now let us generalize the monotonic case. Let us generalize the monotonic case. Okay, so what we did, so we looked at basically, let us say x is equal to, sorry, y is equal to some g of x, right? Y is equal to g of x, where g is a monotonic function. G is monotonic. So let us say, for example, it is monotonically increasing. Okay. So now let's try to follow along. So let us say this is when something is monotonically increasing, you can find its inverse. Okay. Let x be equal to h of y, where h is the inverse. Okay. So let's do this. So py of y, fy of y. I'm sorry. This is. Let me just clear off some space here. So if you write, the steps are the same. You have to first start with the density, and then you have to take the derivative of the density, and you will get the density. So you take the cumulative distribution function fy of y, and then you take its derivative. So this is this, which is same as y is nothing but g of x, right? So this is g of x is less than y. Now I told you g and h are inverses, so you will get p of x is less than h of y. This is, you have to be careful. Since g is monotonically increasing, we have this. Okay, so if I look at simultaneously the case where g is monotonically decreasing, what will happen? Yes, what will happen? Same idea, whatever we have been discussing. What will happen now if g is monotonically decreasing? If I do the same steps? Yes, people?
The sign will be greater than.
Yes. This will be x is greater than h of y. Okay. So this is going to be f of h of y. So this will be fx of h of y. This will be 1 minus fx of h of y. Okay. Now, using the same idea that we did before, we can write the answer by taking the derivative. So let me just make some space for myself. Okay, so this was where we were. So now taking the density, taking the derivative, what we will get is fy of y. Now we have to differentiate this. So when I differentiate this, I will get fx of h of y into h dash of y. Okay. In the other case, I will get fy of y is equal to minus fx of h of y into h dash of y. Okay. Yes. Now we know that since so when x is monotone, the inverse is also monotone. Okay. So this h dash will be whenever you have an increasing function. Okay. So if you have an increasing function, if you take the slope at any point, okay, it's always going to be positive. So this number will be greater than 0. Whereas in the other way, when you have a decreasing function, if you look at the slope, okay, it is always decreasing. So this slope will be negative. Okay. So now using both the ideas that this is a negative function and that is a positive function, we can write fy of y is fx of h of y into the absolute value of h dash of y. Okay, this is only if g is monotone. Okay, what is g? G is basically y is equal to g of x, that g. Okay, is this okay? So when g is monotone, h is also monotone. Any questions so far? Yes, people? Okay, so finally, using this, we can generalize. So final thing that should finish this discussion is, okay, so okay, so now we looked at basically single random variables. We looked at single random variables, derived distributions. Okay, so now we can extend this to like vector random variables. Vector random variables example is multiple random variables jointly distributed. So you can have like f x1, x2, xn of x1, x2 like this, right? Okay, and then we can have basically y1 is equal to g1 of x1, x2, xn. Okay, and y2 is g2 of this. So I'm introducing basically multiple random variables, and I can look at the functions like this. Okay, so example, if you are not able to visualize this, you can have y is equal to something like x plus y x. So let's say x1 and x2, right? So y is equal to x1 plus x2, y1 is equal to x1 plus x2, y2 could be x1 minus 2x2, something like this, some function. Okay, so like that you can define, and suppose that you can write the inverses also. The inverses will be the other way around. So x1 will be some h of y1 to yn, okay, and x2 will be h of y2 to y1 to yn. So this will be h1, this will be h2. Okay, so for example, for these two examples, right, you can solve for x1 in terms of y1 and y2. Okay, so basically x1 will be, if I see properly, yeah, so it will be 2y1 plus y2, okay, divided by 3, something like this. Okay, so like that you define the inverses. So again, I'm out of space. I don't know how to reduce further. Okay, let me just take over this last few lines and discuss there. Okay, I think, yeah. Oh no, it's doing something. Okay, let me just start a new page. This is November 2. Sorry, guys. Let me open MS Paint again. Okay, so this is what we were discussing. So you can have basically now what we are trying to do is we are trying to generalize whatever we saw in the previous case. Okay, so if you remember, that also we need to open. So let me open that. What's happening? Okay, anyway, so what we had in the single variable case, let me write that. In the single variable case, what we had is fy of y was fx of g of y. Sorry, it was h of y, right? That's what we got. Into h dash of y. Okay, that was a single variable case. In the multivariable case, we will have fy1, y2, yn of y1, y2 like this, yn. This will be fx1, x2 like this, xn. H of y will be h1 of y1 to yn like this, h2 and so on. This was with this one. Here it will be basically absolute value of determinant of the Jacobian matrix of you are taking the Jacobian with respect to y1, y2 like this. Okay, so this will be h. So let me tell you what each of these things are. So most of the things you understand. This is going to be h1, h2 the same way like before. This one, what is this Jacobian of h of y1, y2, yn? This is going to be a matrix. Okay, what you will have in the matrix is d h1 divided by the partial derivative matrix it is. So d h1 by y1, d h1 by y2. Okay, you have this matrix like this. h1 by yn. Okay, then you will have h2 by y2 and all this. And then you take the determinant of that and you take the absolute value. Okay, so this is the idea. Maybe tomorrow I will continue from here. I will explain again the multiple variable case. I will give you a few examples so that you understand what's going on. Okay. Okay, so I think we are almost running out of the time. So maybe I can pause for some questions. Are there any questions from the class? So far, I know this multivariable case might have been a little too much to cover, but apart from that, are there any issues?
Sir, actually not from the class, but the schedule you discussed before initially in the class.
Yeah.
I had some issues regarding that.
Okay, tell me.
So as you said, the pace is going to increase in this month. Hello, am I audible?
I will. Yeah, you are. It's breaking. I will turn off my video. Yeah, go ahead, Deep.
Sir, actually, only 1 month is left, so other subjects will also increase their pace, and quizzes and assignments are fine. But I think that the MIT lectures you recommend that are quite lengthy, so it takes a lot of time to watch them. So, is there any alternative for that, if you can suggest?
So this week's MIT lectures, whatever I'm going to share, most of the things I have covered. So what I recommend you to do is like watch it in 1.5 pace. You shouldn't find it too difficult.
Okay.
Okay, so even though they are lengthy, he speaks very slowly. So you can, in the YouTube, you can increase the speed and you can watch that. Okay, and see, if you are having problems, if let us say specifically you are having some issues, you just mail me. We can discuss individually and I will help you out in any of the issues that you have. Okay, I understand the time is a short factor, but
yes,
for that I say you increase it pace to 1.5. Yes. And if you still are having any confusion, I will help you. Okay, I will try to set the quiz and assignment easier so that you get you are able to do it with little effort. But I guess we cannot compromise on the course content. We have to finish what we have to finish because it will be used later. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Thanks.
Yes, Deep, no problem.
So can you send your recorded lectures instead of recommending MIT lectures?
Okay, I see. Okay, I can do that. I will. It takes me a lot of time to make that. So what I will do is I will see if I can give you some better compressed version of those lectures. Okay, I will try my best. I will try to give you as many material as possible from my side, but yeah, I have limited time as well because I need to correct, but I will try it, Tushar.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any other comments, people? I hope today's class, but for the multivariable case, everybody was okay, right? Anyway, you go through the lectures. I will share these videos with you, and then yeah. So let us see. We need to do some work here, but we will do it. We will not let Corona compromise your learning. So we have to work hard, but yeah, it should be fine. All right. So that's about it. So I will stop here. So thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you, sir.